नहीं वो धीरे धीरे
YouTube.
No, you won't be.
Informs her that we are alive.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. Good morning. Good morning. So we'll be starting the session in about a minute, and so our head of the Center for Climate Studies, at IIT Bombay is starting this new MTech program in climate and sustainability, and this is an information session because we have been getting a lot of queries on about the program on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on our email ID. So hi, good morning, good morning. So we'll be yeah. So this is an information session, and whatever doubts you have about this MTech program, you can keep posting your queries in the live YouTube chat box, and we'll be taking your queries from there, and we'll be addressing them during the Q&A session
Yeah.
in the last half an hour of this session. It will go on till 1 o'clock. So I hope you all stay online for next 3 hours. Yeah, and okay, now we have on stage with us Professor Subimal Ghosh. He's the head of the Center for Climate Studies at IIT Bombay, and he'll be the first speaker of today's session. We have other core faculty members with us today after this. So, sir, over to you, Professor Subimal Ghosh.
Thanks, Shiva. I'm Subimal Ghosh. I'm a faculty member at Civil Engineering Department at IIT Bombay and also head of climate studies at IIT Bombay. So the first question that comes to your mind when I am introducing myself, why this person of civil engineering is at climate studies. So what is he actually doing? So I'll tell you a little bit background. I was an water resources engineer. I was doing masters in water resources engineering, then PhD in water resources engineering. And when we are trying to understand the different technologies, innovations in water, what we have understood is that things are changing very fast in water. And why is it changing? Because of climate change. Because there are a lot of changes in climate, there are a lot of changes what is happening in atmosphere, in the way land is interacting with atmosphere, and so on and so forth, and in the ocean and so on. So we quickly realized, the water sector has quickly realized that just focusing on water resources engineering will not take this community anywhere. We have to understand the entire system, or we have to understand in what way climate change is stressing the water sector and what are the solutions. So for that, what is needed is that we need to have a very good understanding of climate. It is not just water. Any sector, if pick up any sector, it can be infrastructure, it can be energy sector, it can be food sector, it can be air sector, it can be water sector, any sector you can think of. Each and every sector is now getting affected by climate, and each and every sector has some role to improve the Earth's climate or to mitigate Earth's climate change. And for that, this subject is becoming very, very important. So while we are talking about the importance of climate and climate, so we realized we climate studies at IIT Bombay, which is an interdisciplinary center, and where a lot of faculty members who are working from different departments as well as who are from core climate background. So they are working together. Now we realize that in a technological institute like IIT, none of the technology will be really sustainable if you do not really include a climate component. Without climate component, no technology is sustainable. That's very clear to each and everyone. And for this purpose, we realize that since there is a huge requirement of each and every technology sector, huge requirement of climate experts, we should start a master's program in climate and sustainability. And we are quite excited that we are starting a master's program in climate and sustainability. We see a lot of you are actually very, very excited. You have been asking a lot of questions and so on when we publish this in social media. In fact, it came in newspaper also that IIT Bombay is starting a master's program in climate and sustainability. It was a big news. So we realize that you may have a lot of doubts. At the same time, we also realize that you may want to, because I can understand that most of you are with a deep tech background and probably would like to know that in what way it will help you if you do an MTech in climate and sustainability, or what exactly is the need. So when I'm talking about the need, I'll go back to 1999. Many of you are probably aware that in 1999, the Odisha, one of the state in the east coast, was badly hit by a super cyclone in 1999, where the highest wind speed was 260 kilometer per hour. Total fatalities was 15,000. It was in 1999. Now in 2020, we had another super cyclone, which is Amphan. The wind speed was exactly the same, 260 kilometer per hour, but you can look at the total fatalities. It has been reduced from 15,218. So in 20 years, there has been a silent revolution where people have not really talked about. The climate community never got publicity like Chandrayaan or any other scientific revolution. But this, so I'll call it a scientific revolution, a silent revolution. But this silent revolution is saving 15,000 people's life, and that is the power of science. And climate science, or climate sustainability is one of the area of science where you can see impact, you can save people's life, and immediately which will have a very strong societal impact. And more importantly, this is silent revolution, and there is a real need to make this silent revolution be applicable, being uh, sort of translated to the society. So there is a huge need of lot of opportunity, the huge need of developing lot of startups, entrepreneurial activities, and so on. So there is a huge scope in this specific area, given the fact that it is directly impacting people's life. Now, this is, I'll not show with a scary picture, but this is very important when you're talking about climate. Yes, over the last 50 years, we have been seeing an unprecedented warming, and the warming trend keeps on increasing. And we are seeing the impacts in terms of extreme heats. We can say that these are some of the picture from IPCC and IPCC Assessment Report 6, and where you can see that how even with per degree centigrade warming, for example, if you look at this picture, you can see that if there is a 4 degree centigrade warming globally, 9 out of 10 years will be an extreme year. So you can see that how severe will it be. Similarly, the heavy precipitation will increase, droughts will increase. So we are in a difficult condition. You cannot think of a single monsoon season where there has not been human death or human mortality because of flooding. You have not we are not seeing a single summer where there has not been severe health impacts because of heat waves. So we are suffering. We are never seeing a single year where we are not seeing huge crop loss because of the drought or because of the flood. So we are seeing lot of losses of human, lot of losses of lives, lot of losses of economy, and there is a huge scope to improve it. So with this purpose, of course, we are realizing little late, but our tech giants are not realizing it little late. Tech giants have started understanding that there is a huge scope, and you can see Google research. They have come up with neural GCM. So what they are doing is they are developing climate models which can provide very fast climate projections and climate simulations, and that will be useful. They are coming in a very big way in climate and sustainability field. Not only Google, Nvidia, they have come up with high performance computing facilities. They are improving the computing facilities specifically designed for high resolution climate and weather simulations with interactive visualization. Look at them. So these are the tech giants who are jumping on this specific field to contribute to climate, because they know there is a huge opportunity to contribute to the society, contribute to the people, contribute to the mankind and humanity. Microsoft, they have come up with climate research initiatives. So all of these computer science tech giants, they are jumping in a big way to climate. I remember a couple of years back, there was a big newspaper article where it was mentioned that over the last 20 years, computer science dominated the tech field. So, but what was being said is that in next 10 years, the climate science and climate science and sustainability will be the computer science of tech field. So, what they are saying is that, the way climate science and sustainability fields are growing, the way the demands are growing, it will be the next big computer science of, of the science and technology. Now, how do you really develop solution? So, of course, our foundation is climate science. Without science, without an understanding in science, if you develop any technology, that will not be useful. So, we have foundation in climate science, but there are two ways we can help. One is adaptation and early warning. One is mitigation and decarbonization. So, what is adaptation? So, of course, we have been talking about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, reducing carbon dioxide emissions, going for EVs, going for green energy, going for wind energy, solar energy, and so on. We are talking about a lot of things. But let's say from tomorrow we'll stop all the fossil fuel. Will global warming be stopped? No, because the carbon dioxide which is there in the atmosphere, it has a very long life period, more than 100 years and so on. So you cannot stop global warming even if you stop the carbon dioxide emission from tomorrow, which is impossible anyway. So you will face the consequences what the human have done over the last 50 years or last 100 years and so on. So what we have to do, we have to adapt. That means we have to manage our sectors which is unavoidable. So managing the unavoidable condition is adaptation. And how can you manage? You can develop better crop varieties, you can suggest better crop choices for a region, you can develop a better early warning, just like the cyclone early warning that is saving people's life, that can be done for floods, droughts, and so on. So we can do that. And why early warning is important? You remember, when COVID happened, how the COVID, why all of us were very much interested in understanding in next week whether there will be a, increase in COVID, number of COVID patients or not. So early warning is very important because that makes us alert and we take proper measures. So early warning is one of the major part of adaptation, and of course adaptation is when you're increasing the scale. And the second one is mitigation. We cannot increase greenhouse gases like this. So we have to develop a better decarbonization technologies, decarbonization policies, carbon dioxide capture, and so on and so forth, and green energy and so on. So this is climate mitigation, and we have to develop both. So that's the idea, and there technology comes place. So you have technology, you have science, and if you merge them together, you can come up with that technology which really plays one of the most important role in the coming decades. So now we are again coming back to our climate studies. What climate studies we do? We work on mitigation, we work on impacts, we work on vulnerability and risk, we work on adaptation, we work on early warning, and we provide climate services. We work on developing technologies for climate services, which is for water sector, which is for food and agriculture sector, which is for air pollution, air sector, infrastructure sector, energy sector, and so on. And we help them for day-to-day management with early warning or policy help in terms of decadal scale predictions. So that's all is climate studies. What is our vision? Our vision is to become a world leader in research, education, innovation, and capacity building in both climate science and solution for sustainable development. I'd like to mention that there are many master's programs which are available, which are either focusing only on climate science or only on sustainable development. But there was no merger in science and solution and sustainable development together. And this is, in that sense, this is one of the first master's program which is focusing on all the verticals of climate science, climate adaptation, and climate mitigation. Because we want the students who are coming out of this master's program, they have that capability that they can contribute significantly to all the industries. Every industry now need a sustainability manager. And they can contribute with a holistic knowledge of climate science, adaptation, and mitigation. We do not want anybody who will just talk about green finance and will not understand anything about climate science. We do not want anybody who only understand atmospheric science but do not understand anything related to business plan related to sustainability. So we want those students, we want our MTech product should be capable of taking care of the holistic or the whole challenge of climate. And the mission is to foster rigorous academic research. Of course, this is one of the area which needs a lot of research. It is not like that, like civil engineering, electrical engineering, or mechanical engineering. We have IS course ready, we have everything ready. We just follow the course. We have follow a big, books of for designing principles and just apply. We do not have all of them ready. So there is a lot of scope for research and lot of scope for innovation. That's very important. And when there is lot of scope of innovations, there is lot of scope of entrepreneurial activities and incubation. And of course, IIT Bombay is very helpful in terms of when any student wants to incubate their ideas, new ideas. Yeah, and also we have to co-design and end-to-end solutions with stakeholders. We do not want, climate is one of the area where you cannot force solutions to anybody. So what we have to do is that we have to work with stakeholders and co-develop. So that is one of the new things which we focus through climate studies, which is very unique in this specific center. So we have 4 verticals. One is education and research, education and outreach. Second one is research. Third one is of course human resource development, and fourth one is co-design of solutions. And our focuses are, one is climate processes, which is hardcore science. One is impacts and adaptation, which is science and impacts together. One is mitigation, which is hardcore tech, and then climate solutions and policy. And Center for Climate Studies works on all of them, and it allows a free collaboration across different verticals, which is one of the key, or which is one of the very unique thing of climate studies. Now, these are as our long-term research vision, which climate is one of the area where things are changing very fast. You think of computer science, the way in 20 years it has changed. It changed really, really very fast. And this is another area in science and tech which is changing really, really very fast. So we have made a vision where we will keep on changing our vision very quickly with the change in the technological development and with scientific development. So this is one of the area which is very dynamic area, and that's the way we would like to develop. As I said that this is an interdisciplinary program. We will not force climate science on the students, but we want the students to really work on different areas, brainstorm among themselves, and come up with real interdisciplinary work. And for that purpose, though we have around 7 to 8 core faculty members, but at the same time we have other faculty members who are participating from different departments like civil, art science, environmental science, humanities, mechanical, management studies, so chemistry, chemical. So we want that the students will have a very good interdisciplinary background, and that's one of the idea. And if you look at our PhD students background, you can see they have different kind of backgrounds from different areas. Now, this is actually the way we have changed. Of course, our journey, we started in 2012, which was India's first PhD program on climate change. And we are starting the master's program on climate and sustainability, which is very unique because, as I said, that it is not specifically on climate science, or it is not specifically on climate policy. It merges all of them together. And one of the important part what we are doing is that in the recent period, we are now going for more interactions with we are focusing on more interacting. We are interacting with many of the industries. Like you can see, we are working with the insurance companies. We are working with core computer science companies, and so on. And also, we are promoting climate entrepreneurship. So our plan is to develop a few courses with our Center of Entrepreneurship, and maybe something like entrepreneurship in climate and sustainability. So these sort of courses will really help those students who are really interested in doing masters, and at the same time incubate their knowledge or their innovative finding into a new startup. So we are also thinking in that way as well. So as I said that our purpose is we'll develop, because we are in technological institute, our purpose is to develop climate tech based on science, which will have a holistic view on climate and sustainability, which is grounded, which is based on foundation of climate science, but we'll work on developing adaptation and mitigation tools as well as translational potential. And we have set up actually few new living labs where the students, faculty can interact with society, develop solution, check whether the solution is really working or not, and after that test, this can be incubated or this can be applied to a larger region. So in climate adaptation, some of our major areas are early warning of droughts, floods, heat waves. We are working on climate and health. We are working on climate and renewable energy. One of the major projects we have got from Ministry of Power, Grid India, that we have to develop the renewable energy forecasting system. We all talk about renewable energy, but we do not understand that the forecasting of their intermittency is really, really very important. We are working on weather smart agricultural system. As we all know that Indian economy depend on agriculture, and agriculture is badly affected because of climate change and climate irregularity. So there is a huge scope there. We are working on water. We are working on climate resilient infrastructure. We are working on city municipalities so that we can develop a better infrastructure map. And in mitigation, we are working on net zero emissions. We are working on life cycle assessment. We are working on energy management, green hydrogen, carbon capture, utilization, sequestration, and clean environment policy. So now coming to the curriculum structure. So if you look at the curriculum structure, this is, we want our students to do a few core courses. And so that will give them the foundation. The first core course is Introduction to Climate Science. And second one is Sustainability Principles and Policy. And they will make the foundation to take the other two core courses in the next semester, which will talk about climate change mitigation and policy and climate change impacts and adaptation. And then whatever you are learning, you need to apply with some hands-on training, and for that we will have a lab course on climate and sustainability lab course. Rest of the electives you can take it from the basket of electives which is there across departments. So the idea here is that once you have the very good background on climate science, sustainability, mitigation and adaptation, then you can take from any engineering discipline which is related to climate and develop your own ideas of in what way you can develop climate based solution for that specific sector. And of course, then third semester and fourth semester, we have full project where we'll develop this. We can work with living lab, or you can work with in different sectors, different industries, different faculty members to really come up with real good solution. And these are some of the elective courses just to show that we have core climate elective course and different courses all across the institute. So these are some of the elective courses. There are a few more, so you can actually take. Now, this is a bit technical, but I'll not go into details, but just to give you an idea, our idea here is that, of course, we are talking about adaptation and mitigation, but what we are trying to say is that when you are doing adaptation, you have to take care of mitigation. And when you do mitigation technology development, you have to take care of adaptation. So we want some technology, which is also very unique, where adaptation and mitigation will go hand in hand. And for that, we have to take help of different sector-specific technologies for developing digital twin, for developing IoT-based sensors, for developing different computer science techniques, for crowdsourcing like large language modeling and so on, and a lot of other information, and merging them together for solutions that will be really helpful for the society. Now, these are some of the ongoing projects. We have developed Mumbai, one of the badly flood-affected area. So we have been working with the citizen of Mumbai. This is essentially directly working with the people of Mumbai, and we are developing forecast for them, as well as we are taking crowdsourced information for them. So we are developing a technology with them. We are working with Oracle for hydrometeorological monitoring. We are developing country-wide district level maps. We are developing black carbon based aerosol program. We have developed a very good data inventory. We are working on AI/ML based parameterization of global and regional model. Those who are computer scientists, there is a huge scope in this specific area. I'm again telling because some of the tech giants are really jumping on this area. Renewable energy forecast, weather smart agricultural system, and so on. And we are one of the center, which was the first center funded by the government of India to develop the first center of excellence in climate change. And we have completed 10 successful years under their funding. We have worked with Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, where we developed special portal for carbonaceous aerosols. We have worked with people of Mumbai, which I was telling. For example, we developed this portal for Mumbai last year, and where you can actually go to any of the station, you can find out what is the hourly rainfall, what are the next 3 days forecast, and what was the past season's forecast, so that people can see how well we are doing, and accordingly they can they can understand how useful are they. we have put sensors at different locations where people can easily see that what is the flood level and so on, and based on that they can decide. And at the same time, most important part is that what we did, we have developed a system where people can inform what is the flood condition at their area. They can pick up their current location, they can click there, they can put their height and some qualitative information, and immediately it will be available. So let's say if you want, on a fine day, if you want to travel from here to here and you do not know if it is flooded or not, you can look at the site and find out, okay, these are the points which are flooded, so we will not go. We have developed some system where we can find out at different stations what is the condition. We have picked up a lot of information from tweet, now X, and we're helping people, saying that look, Twitter information says these are the regions where flooding is happening and these are the regions the situation is not that bad. So that sort of information we are generating in a different innovative way. We are developing tools which will be really useful for the people. And at the same time, in a very similar way, we are developing patent and different technologies for helping the farmers so that they can save water. So how can they use weather forecast 2 to 4 weeks for prediction and so on? In what way they can develop irrigation advisories that can help farmers to save water at farm scale. And we can see that 10 to 30% of the water saving is possible if we properly use weather forecast. And we have set up a few living labs. For example, we have set up one living lab in Satara, where Man and Khatao Taluka. This is essentially a deficit region in a water surplus district. You can see Mohabaleshwar receives 6,000 mm, where this region is only 300 mm. So these are some of the regions which are under water stress. So idea here is that can we work with these people and develop different technologies that can help people live. So these sort of things we are developing. Of course, our colleagues are working on modeling extreme rain event, where physics and AI are merged together to develop things. And also we are thinking of many upcoming projects where you can actually contribute if you join. So that's all from my side. Thank you for joining. I really request you, just please apply for this MTech program, and I can assure you it will be a completely different kind of experience, where where you will not be doing routine work, but you'll be doing a lot of innovative work which will make significant impact on people's life. Thank you. And
Thank you.
also, my colleagues will now present some of the areas which are really required to develop this kind of technologies. So they'll give some overview, so you'll get some idea what all these specific technical terms mean.
Yes, thank you, Professor Subimal. Thank you very much for this insightful talk. So what we'll do now is Professor Jaideep will go next. And while he shares his screen, his PPT, I'll request Professor Subimal to address these very basic questions that people have, sent us. Like Farhan Siddiqui is asking if you can explain the meaning of interdisciplinary program.
Okay, so interdisciplinary program means when our center has faculty members from civil engineering, from chemical engineering, from energy science engineering, from environmental science and engineering, from Center for Technology Assessment in Rural Areas, and so on. So different, from mechanical engineering. So the people from different engineering background, they are all working together. So it's not just understanding atmospheric or oceanic science. It's about understanding a specific sector. For example, if you develop something for renewable energy forecasting, you have to understand the grid system, you have to understand the renewable energy technology system, you have to understand climate system, you have to understand everything together. So that's the purpose. So essentially, that means interdisciplinary. So where you are bringing lot of disciplines together into a single problem.
Right, so. And another question is from Ameya Thanawala. He says that he's from architecture background. He's asking how flexible is the MTech program in allowing him to focus on areas like sustainable building design, climate resilient urbanism.
Yes, we are. Actually, this is one of the area in which we are focusing. We want people to work in this area. For example, within a specific compound, what should be the building orientation that will allow wind circulation in such a way so that the impacts of heat waves will not be very severe. This can be one of the area. The other area was that how can we really reduce heat stress in terms of designing wind circulation. So this needs very high resolution. Just architecture will not help because you need a very high resolution climate modeling, which some of our colleagues do, and at the same time architectural knowledge. If you merge them together, that can be a wonderful tool, and this is what we are just focusing on.
Right, sir. So we keep getting these questions on the chat, but we need to continue with our lecture.
Yes,
So
please.
Ray, Farhan, Jayesh, we'll come back to your question. Please stay online till the end. So now we have Professor Jaideep on stage, and yeah, he's our youngest faculty member. He just joined, I think, 1 month back.
And
Yeah,
also one
thanks.
of the things is he is an alum from electrical engineering. He did his BTech from IIT Bombay in electrical engineering. Now he is a faculty in climate studies. So you can understand. I think one of the questions was how interdisciplinary it is. This is the interdisciplinary nature. We have faculty members from mechanical engineering. We have faculty member from civil engineering. We have faculty member from electronics. We have faculty member from electrical engineering. So yes, that's the interdisciplinarity. Jaideep, please, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Shiva. Thanks, Professor Subimal. I was actually going to say that I'm an engineer turned ecologist. So if you're thinking, oh, whether do I have a background to get into this program, you totally do. Just feel free to apply. Right. So I am Jaideep Joshi. I have started a research group called Treehouse in the Center for Climate Studies. And I'm going to talk about the biosphere and how the biosphere affects climate and is affected by climate. So when dealing with biosphere, we really need to put ourselves in the shoes of a tree and then think what the tree is going to do under a given environmental conditions. So as you know, trees sequester a lot of carbon by photosynthesis. And on an annual basis, they sequester a whopping 123 gigatons of carbon. And most of it is lost by respiration, mortality, and disturbance. But yet, even after all of that carbon is lost, the net sink is still about 2.6 gigatons, and that amounts to about 30% of our human fossil fuel emissions. So you see how important the biosphere is in mitigating climate change. But then the question arises, so far forests have acted as carbon sinks, but given that the temperature is increasing, so respiration will increase because of recurrent droughts and so on, mortality is increasing, there is a lot of disturbance happening because of deforestation and so on. So will forests continue to remain carbon sinks? As you can see, if you look at the biggest forests in Amazon and Africa, they are both either saturating in terms of their sink potential or decreasing since a few years. So the question is, how do we know whether these important ecosystems will continue to do their function? And how can we predict numerically what kind of carbon sink should we expect from these ecosystems? So there we put ourselves in the shoes of a tree and then look at what kind of trade-offs does a tree face? How does a tree behave in a given environment? So let's look at a leaf. What does the leaf do? It does photosynthesis, which means that carbon is going from the atmosphere into the leaves and is fixed into the tissues of the tree. But then while carbon is going in, water is going out from the same pathway. So these leaves have little pores on their surface called stomata, and carbon goes in through these stomata and water goes out. Now, carbon in is like a revenue because that's what the tree uses for all its functions. So it's like a currency revenue for it. But then the lost water is a cost because water loss means it might face hydraulic failure or it might not get enough resources for maintaining its function and so on. So then the dilemma of the tree is how much should the opening of this pore be so that I get maximum revenue but minimum cost. So if you want to model this kind of a process like photosynthesis, there are a bunch of options that exist. So the equations on this slide are not rendered, but the light, for example, you have statistical models, or you have simple light use efficiency models, or you have more complex models based on optimality ideas. So light use efficiency model, for instance, would just say, okay, if this is the light intensity that the tree is facing, that's the light amount of light falling on the leaf. The rate of photosynthesis would just be proportional to the light intensity. And this is a very, very simple model, but it works remarkably well. So that goes to show how important light is when it comes to controlling photosynthesis. But then we know very well that temperature, vapor pressure deficit, humidity, all of these things also affect photosynthesis. So then we can build some statistical models. We can say, okay, photosynthesis rate is a function of light intensity, temperature, all of vapor pressure deficit and their interactions and so on, and then fit this model to data, and then we get some relationship. So this is what has been in use for the last several decades. And then the latest approach in modeling photosynthesis is to really think what a tree is doing. And that is where some of these optimality ideas are now coming forth, where we say that, okay, the tree gets so much revenue because of keeping a certain stomatal opening, and it faces certain costs. And then the balance of these benefits and costs should determine how much the stomatal opening should be. And to give you a perspective, here is an optimality model that we have developed in our research group. And it shows the points are the responses of two different species photosynthesis rates to drying environments. On the x-axis, you have increasing dryness as you go from right to left. And the points are what are the observed photosynthesis rates or other parameters as the soil dries. And the curves are they are not fitted curves, but they are predictions from an optimality model. So you can see this optimality offers a very powerful approach to getting very accurate predictions of how different kinds of plants or species will respond via their photosynthesis rates to climate change. Then once we know what the leaf is doing, we need to see what the whole plant is doing. So what does a plant do with the acquired carbon? So this carbon then goes through a full cycle. First, you have the net uptake, which is the carbon going from the atmosphere into the leaves. And then some of it is lost, as I said, by respiration and turnover and mortality and so on. So you get a net carbon that is fixed eventually. That fixed carbon is allocated to different components of the plant. Like some goes in the leaves, some goes in the stems, some goes below ground, some is exudated out from the roots to the bacteria and other animals that live in the soil. Some is eaten up by animals living on the land and so on. And then as a result of all of this flows of carbon, you get some growth, mortality, and reproduction rates at the level of the ecosystem. And these rates will determine what are your carbon fluxes, that's the amount of carbon going in and out of the ecosystem, and what are the carbon stocks, which means how much is the biomass living in the standing stock of the plants, both above ground and below ground. And this in turn affects global temperature. So if you have a very high carbon stock, that means or a carbon flux, that means a lot of carbon that humans are emitting is getting sequestered. But if that starts to decrease, then the sink potential goes down, and then we will face increasing risks of even higher temperature increases. Then no ecosystems stand on their own, right? Every ecosystem in some way or the other is affected by humans and also supports human well-being. So we also need to look at human natural systems and coupled systems where humans are critically dependent on nature. And that's why there are the questions of sustainability and resilience. So what do we derive from an ecosystem, and how do we ensure that the ecosystem is resilient to climate change, and that the services that we derive from it are managed sustainably. So if you have a certain climate change scenario or a certain management regime in which you are operating the ecosystem, then depending on that, the ecosystem will give you certain responses. They will adapt to new conditions at multiple time scales, and then they will give you some services like biodiversity, carbon sequestration, fresh water, seeds, and so on. And then these services are used in different ways by different kinds of people. Like farmers would require water, maybe the general community would require food, maybe the government cares about carbon stocks, we all care about carbon stocks. And then depending on that, in a given management regime, maybe not everyone is happy, but then we have to see what are the kind of management regimes for ecosystems which maximize the benefit that everybody is getting. And that is how we should sort of design policy and advance towards sustainable development goals. So to give you a quick idea about the courses that I am planning to teach, it will be Principles of Sustainability, in which we will understand why does the Earth system tend to get unsustainable. We will understand some aspects of human behavior, tragedy of the commons, We will understand what are the frameworks used for defining sustainability. We'll look at the different spheres of the Earth, like the biosphere, ecosystems, humans, and atmosphere, and so on. And then we will look at how sustainability applies in various sectors. We will also look at how collective action and collective governance can advance sustainability, and what are the options for enterprise for you to become a champion of change in the domain of sustainability. The second course I'm planning to teach is terrestrial ecosystem ecology, in which we will primarily look at life on land. How are ecosystems structured? What are their functions? What are the principles we use in ecosystem modeling? We look at everything from the leaf level, photosynthesis, to the overall carbon stocks and fluxes in the biosphere, looking at the biological carbon cycle, energy and water transport across the biosphere, the dynamics of ecosystems. How do ecosystems change when temperature increases or carbon dioxide increases? How are they coupled with human natural systems? And then these issues of complexity, sustainability, and resilience when we have such a complex coupled system. In our research group, which is called Treehouse, we work on three different themes. One is to look at individual level plants and their function, like how do leaves, how do roots function under different environments, how do plants use water, how do they use carbon, how do humans behave in certain contexts. So that's the ecophysiology and behavior theme. Then we look at the entire ecosystems from a systems point of view. So we look at emergent phenomena, we look at complex systems, we look at interaction networks among individuals, plants and animals, humans, and so on. And then the third theme is co-design, where we use all of this knowledge to work with people on the ground so that we can collaborate with them, get their feedback, and devise actionable climate solutions. So if you like to know more about the research group, feel free to scan this code. And meanwhile, if we have time, I'm happy to take a question or two.
Thank you, Jaideep. So if you have queries for any specific faculty member, like if you have any queries for Jaideep, you can post it in the YouTube chat and we'll take it from there. Meanwhile, I'll add Professor Angshuman Modak because he'll go next. Angshuman, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Angshuman. Please share your PPT. And meanwhile, Jaideep can take any queries if any. So for now, we've been getting mostly general queries. For example, maybe Angshuman, you can answer this. Will there be any interview or written test for the admission process? Sri Vijay Lakshmi is asking.
So for the MTech program, it is only through GATE. So it's a direct admission through your GATE score. Depending, so you can look at our CliMath website as well as IIT Bombay MTech admission website, where you will find the information that for which GATE paper, what is the cutoff and all.
And also you can write to office.climate if you have any queries later on. If you get any queries, write to office.climate. Meanwhile, Angshuman, I request you to share your slides.
Oh, I can share my slides?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can click on the present button and upload presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Anustup
So do I
Biswas.
have to upload?
Yes. If you press on the present button and it will get uploaded.
Actually, I can still see Jaideep's presentation.
Yeah. I've removed it. I'll.
Now it is showing processing for my slides.
I can't see your PPT yet.
It takes about half a minute to get uploaded.
Yeah. So meanwhile, I'll just check the comments that people have posted. Thank you, guys. Thank you for staying online with us. Yeah. So there's one person, RV. He says he's a UG student working in adaptation finance research. Will he be able to continue the research work along with PG? Yeah. RV will get back to your question. We'll address all your questions in the Q&A section and in between these, breaks. So yeah, next is Professor Angshuman Modak. He is our third core faculty of the center. Angshuman, on to you.
So if I change, so shall I do full screen now? So is it changing, Shiva?
Not yet. Not yet. Can you try once more?
So here, when I say present, it is saying that
It's
I
okay.
have to
Maybe
upload.
I'll change it from here. I'm able to see your slide.
You can?
So you can start speaking. I'll change it from here. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Angshuman Modak. As Shiva introduced me, so I am a core faculty at the Center for Climate Studies, IIT Bombay. So in this talk, I'm going to explore the science, the challenges that we are facing because of climate change. So the science of climate change and adaptation, the challenges that we are facing because of climate change and the solutions to it. Basically, uh, we will look into that. Adaptation, mitigation are kind of solutions to the problems that we have because of climate change, and we will try to link it to sustainable development. So moving on, Shiva, can you go to the next slide? So, climate change is already here. You have. I'm sorry. Basically, it is a PowerPoint, and it should come one after the other. Anyway, I'll continue. So you see, I have been showing you here. The first is severe heat wave that you see from Business Standard. It is last year's May. We are already facing such heat waves again last year May in Delhi. There are many news reports, right? There are many flood events, extreme rainfall events that is happening, devastating floods in Chennai, which occurred in 2021. So we are already facing all these issues because of climate change. So let's understand what exactly climate change is through science. So basically, climate change is nothing but changing the system. So what is the climate system? Climate systems is basically the totality of the land, atmosphere, ocean, ice, sea ice, ice and snow cover, vegetation, all of them together, which you can see in this white color schematic. And all the components of this are the components of each of the components, right? For example, the clouds in the atmosphere, ozone, greenhouse gases, aerosols in the atmosphere, the trees in the vegetation or in the land, right? And all the other land use, land cover changes because of the buildings, the cities, the infrastructure, right? Now, the arrows are representing the energy flow in the climate system. So what happens when we basically perturb the system, which means we are perturbing this energy flow. If you perturb any of these arrows that you see here, you are going to see a change. Why do you see a change? Because the climate system is going to respond to that perturbation, to the arrows that we are making. So at present, human activities, which is one of the major thing, is the increase in the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere, and then other greenhouse gases as well, such as methane, which are short-lived but very effective in warming. So their global warming potential is very high. Then the land use, land cover change is happening. So all of them are like examples of perturbation other than the natural ones. And the climate system responds by increasing its temperature. The moment you increase the temperature, it is one of the fundamental variable of our climate system. So the moment you increase the temperature, you see all the other effects, such as heat waves, extreme rainfall, changes in the atmospheric circulation, changes in the oceanic circulation, changes in the vegetation. So one of the key thing that is there is this increase in CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. And you can see, so here I'm showing you from the observation which comes from this Scripps Institution of Oceanography at San Diego. It is called the Killing Curve, named after the person who started this observation. And you can see that CO2 has been increasing very rapidly. Initially, until 1970s or late 70s, it was 1 parts per million per year, whereas later it became 1.5 parts per million, then 2, 2.5. So it is actually accelerating, right? So now because of this, what you see is increase in temperature. So this is basically the global warming plot that everyone sees or everyone knows, or one must know. So the color lines, color solid lines are from the observation, and the black dash line and the shading is basically from the observation. And the shading also represents the internal variability, which is basically the ocean atmosphere interaction, which are natural in nature, and they are like, they come from basically ENSO, AMOC, and many other variability in the natural variability in the system. Whereas this dashed line represents the forced response, which is because of the human interventions or human activities in our climate system, which kind of represents the climate feedbacks, which are like plants, lapse rate, cloud, water vapor, surface albedo. And much of my work is also related to this, much of my research work basically. So now because of global warming, you see expected changes in rainfall, then expected changes in the circulation. Basically with warming, the circulation is going to weaken, and because of that many other changes can happen. However, with warming, you have more water vapor in the atmosphere, which can lead to more clouds. But at what level the clouds will be there? Is it over the tropics? Is it the high clouds, or is it the low clouds that you can see on the right? So the clouds are also going to respond accordingly with the warming. So as I was saying, much of my research work relates to the science of such feedbacks and the variabilities, the internal variabilities, or you call the natural variabilities of the climate system. So one of the key thing my group is working is like global warming is one thing, but different regions are also warming at different rate. As you can see here, in the last 40 years, the warming has been like this. So basically, it is not warming everywhere. The red shows warming, whereas the blue shows cooling. And you can see in the Eastern Pacific region, it is cooling down. And in the Southern Ocean also, it is cooling down. Whereas in the Western Pacific, Indian Ocean, it is warming very fast. And this could have significant changes in the dynamics, large-scale dynamics or teleconnections patterns. However, in future, you see the Eastern Pacific is warming. So this is a future scenario that you can actually reproduce from the, so my group has been doing such work. So what you see here is basically warming in the East Pacific, which is very much different from the cooling trend that we are seeing now. So now if there is a warming in the Eastern Pacific, which is a regional warming, right? Also, you see that the Southern Ocean is warming also very fast. So they are going to change the dynamics completely. And this will have significant implications on heat waves, extreme rainfall, whatever, effects of climate change or climate change impacts. On the below 4 panels, I show that how the circulation, there is a circulation called Walker cell or Walker circulation. It is going to change with, different kind of changing pattern or forcing in the climate system. So the other example that I'll take, so I'm going to give you 2 examples. This is the first one. The other example is basically how aerosols through its interaction with radiation and cloud changes the climate. So again, in my group, we are looking into such things using GCM simple models. So here what we see, one of the MTech students, what they did was they increased, if you increase the impact of aerosols on the climate, how is it going to change the global warming? So you can see that it is going to cool down. But again, it is only a global representation, right? If you go to a regional with more aerosols, you have a certain kind of pattern with a different kind of aerosol interaction. The cooling is different. Similarly, the Indian monsoon is also going to change. You can see that different aerosols. So this is because of this uploading slides. On the left side, you see the changes in the circulation because of black carbon aerosols, whereas on the right side, you see the changes in the circulation because of sulfate, the cooling aerosols. And on the contours show the warming and the cooling pattern. So sulfate causes a cooling. The black that you see, it is basically the terrain, the Himalayas, you can see say roughly. So these are the things that we do in our research, in our group. Other than that, in terms of like climate adaptation, so we looked into climate drivers, which could be energy sector, deforestation, agricultural practices, waste management, transportation, industrial sector. And so these are the climate change drivers, and what we looked into is the climate change impacts, right? And the physics and dynamics associated with it, which are I have again given here as an example. Like rising global temperature can cause changes in precipitation pattern, can cause ocean acidification, can change the sea level, and then can basically change the storm surges or the cyclones, can accelerate the cryospheric shrinking, basically melting of glaciers, melting of sea ice. Then the soil chemistry, soil biodiversity can also change. Now, to deal with all these impacts, climate change impacts, because of the climate change drivers, there are two things. One is climate change mitigation, and one is climate change adaptation. And as in the morning, Professor Subimal Ghosh was telling that these are very useful and very important things to look at. So in our program, so what I'm going to do today is in my talk is to introduce you to climate change adaptation, which is basically something which we have to do right now. Climate change mitigation is, so the best example is this one, where I was showing you increasing CO2 concentration. But let's say we decide from 2025 that we are going to emit no more CO2 and we are going to decrease it down. But you see the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, although the increase goes down, but the amount of CO2 or the CO2 concentration remains same, right? So now if you have to mitigate, it will be a very long process, because first of all, we are not actually reducing it, the emission of CO2. And the other thing is that there is a inertia, or there is a hysteresis. When you reduce the CO2 concentration, the climate still goes warming. So the best way to deal with the climate change impact is adaptation. So now, what is adaptation? Here I try to give you this schematic. So adaptation is a response to climate related stimuli, as I have written here, and which includes basically changes in temperature, or the rising in temperature, and then changes in rainfall patterns, both in short term, in different spatial scales, right? And also, um, also there could be non-climatic drivers. What are those non-climatic drivers? They can be basically economic, social, right, political. And now, who and what adapts to this to the climate change impacts or climate change? So basically, what I would say is, like, the system adapts could be the natural system who will adapt, right? The ecosystems, or the human system. The human system could be the agricultural practices or agriculture, the infrastructure, the governance, right? So these are very important to understand or know, in the context of adaptation, climate adaptation. Then how does climate adaptation occur? It occurs through different processes. There would be different outcomes. Then the other part of climate adaptation is that how good the adaptation is, right? There are criteria, there are principles which you can use, like whether the criteria are like criteria could be basically cost effectiveness, efficiency, equity, and all. Moving on, here I just wanted to give a glimpse that when and how adaptation occur. So if you see a community who is, and this is, let's say, a rainfall time series, and this red circles represents either very heavy rainfall event, or there is no rainfall in that particular year, maybe causing a drought kind of condition. So, and this blue shading is basically the adaptive capacity or the coping range of the community, right? So the community can handle all these small red circles here in the beginning, but E1, if you see, it is really massive, right? So at this point, the community will decide, or has to decide, that what to do next. Shall we increase our adaptive capacity? So now what they do, they decided, let's, at time T2, they decide, okay, let's increase our coping range or adaptive capacity, and it takes some time to do that, right? And then you increase your adaptive capacity, but beyond a certain point you cannot. So adaptation includes all such sciences, How do you make such decisions? How do you do the risk analysis associated with it, right? um, uh, so the primary questions that we are going to ask, or one should ask in climate adaptation, is like, what are the key climate risk and vulnerabilities? Which regions, sectors, communities are most at risk? How do different climate hazards impact ecosystem, right? How can adaptation be evaluated and improve over time? So on the right hand side, what you see is the uh, how IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So the top one shows the assessment report 5, the bottom one shows the assessment report 6, and so it is primarily the risk analysis which is associated with adaptation. So how much is the hazard, how much you are exposed to the hazard, and how much is the vulnerability. So under climate adaptation in our program, you will be learning, you will be knowing about such risk analysis and vulnerability assessment and other things. Linking adaptation mitigation to sustainable development. Here you can see that in the first quadrant, if you are reducing your vulnerability as well as you are also reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases, you are basically in a win-win situation. It's really sustainable, right? Water demand management, heat management from buildings. However, there can be also conditions that you are reducing the vulnerability by using air conditioning or maybe expanded irrigation system, but you are increasing your emission. So it is not, these are adaptive emission definitely, but it's not like in the win-win situation. So this is how you basically involve sustainable development under adaptation mitigation. So finally, I would like to end in this way. Adaptation needs interdisciplinary approaches, physics, data science, engineering, social science, policy. Our new NTech program is really designed to train students in exactly these interfaces to use science to shape actionable solutions for the society. And you can really contribute to the society. So finally, climate change is a scientific challenge, but adaptation is a human one. Uh, Explore our MTech program, climate and sustainability. You can contribute to research as well as real world problem solving. If you are really curious about why and how monsoons might shift, why extremes are worsening, what causes them, or how we can build resilient cities, this climate program, this MTech in climate and sustainability program is definitely for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Angshuman. Thank you very much. So I'll bring on stage the next faculty member, Professor Anjali Sharma. Hi, Anjali.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah. So we'll start with Anjali's talk, and of course, please keep pouring all your questions. I mean, I'm requesting the viewers to keep posting in the YouTube live chat. We'll be taking your questions in the end. Thank you so much, Anjali. Over to you. Thank you, Angshuman.
Thanks Angshuman and thanks Shiba. So
Thanks.
I think everything is going well slides wise, so I can just start.
Yeah, you can.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Professor Anjali Sharma. I primarily work on climate change mitigation, and that's what I'll be talking about today. Thank you so much for joining us on a Saturday morning and staying with us till now. So, for students who are interested in thinking about how to reduce GHG emissions and then act on climate change, that's basically what climate mitigation is, and that's what I work on. And we have a team of professors, not only in core faculty but also many in associate faculty, who work on different aspects of it. I think I saw some questions on finance. Hopefully my slides will have some answers for you. So how I have designed today's 15-minute is that we'll start with a very basic introduction of what energy transition is. You may have read or heard about it in the newspapers. So, just a brief intro of what it means, and then specifically what it means for India. I think the situation of India is such that we do have many opportunities to act on climate change and especially climate mitigation, which also unfortunately come with challenges. And this MTech can provide you a great opportunity to work on both and especially contribute to India's climate action journey. And I'll end it with some ideas. I saw some questions on how can you maybe apply this degree in jobs or maybe research and other opportunities. So we can have a short discussion on that as well towards the end of the presentation. So, very simply put, the idea of energy transition is very simple. So, what you see on the left is a thermal power plant. You basically want to move from left to right. You want to move from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And you may have seen very ambitious and very promising innovation happening in renewable energy. So, the prices of solar and wind are at an all time low. So, it should work, right? Like, but still, you may also be hearing about US has pulled out of the Paris Agreement. We see another year with the hottest summer ever, and we are not able to reduce our emissions at the rate which was maybe promised in Paris Agreement or something else. So you have the technology, but you're still not able to make this transition happen. This is what people studying energy transition and climate change mitigation focus on, and specifically, this is area for my work and my research as well. So even with all of this innovation, and we have seen in the previous slides as well, people talking about innovation in solar, wind, but also in other sectors like agriculture as well. But even then, if you look at a graph like this, it provides you a very sobering reality. Like technologies like solar, renewables, wind don't even make a sliver of what our primary energy consumption is. The world still runs on fossil fuels and it's coal, oil, gas. So I should also mention it's not just coal, it's oil and gas as well, which tells you that your challenge is not just in the electricity sector. A lot of oil and gas actually goes to other sectors like heating, transport. So your challenges are also multi-sectoral. So it's not just a transition in electricity, but you have to think about changing the way you live, the way in which you consume and produce energy all across. And this is how that challenge looks like. So right now we continue to emit a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And one of our big issue is when it comes to CO2 emissions. And what you will see in this very busy graph is that the big problem of GHGs is CO2, which primarily comes from sectors like electricity, transport, industry. So, if you want to do energy transition, you want to think about transformation in all of these sectors. And people who are interested in doing this MTech, the challenge also presents then an opportunity that you can start looking into possibilities of energy transition across different sectors, what is feasible, what is doable, and then at what pace can we make this change. So this may seem like a very busy graph for people, but I hope that once you get into a degree like this, you will be very comfortable reading such graphs. This is from the latest IPCC report. Professor Angshuman also mentioned it. So what they are basically telling you is that if you want to limit temperature rise, you need to make massive changes in the way in which you produce and consume energy. So, what these graphs are essentially showing is that by the end of this century, your fossil fuel use needs to come down dramatically, and your renewable energy use needs to grow up dramatically. So, it's clear the science is telling us that, okay, these are the answers, just act on it. But still, what we find is that countries are not able to do it. And one big issue is that it is not cheap to make this transition. So the world together needs somewhat like 8 trillion US dollars by 2030 to stay within 1.5-degree target. That's not cheap. It's quite a few multiplication number of India's current GDP. So even if I were to take out a number which will work for India, it still is very massive investment and we just don't have the money. And it's not that climate change mitigation is our only concern. You just heard that adaptation is a big problem. There are other sectors which also need money because people need jobs, people need to be fed. So you need money for agriculture, you need money for your water services. So you can't put all of your money in climate mitigation as well. So then how do you figure out money for climate mitigation becomes a big challenge and countries are not able to figure out. So that is one reason why we are so slow in acting on climate change. The other thing is that countries fight a lot internationally to commit to climate action. So, this is basically a very distorted version of the world. You will see here that North America, Western Europe are ballooned out. Why? Because they have historically caused a lot of emissions. But today, the rate of emission reduction in these countries continues to be either stagnant or very slow. And they're also not putting in as much money as needed in climate action, which makes the task of the entire world very difficult when it comes to climate mitigation. So, these are all the reasons why, even when we have the technology, we don't see very good progress on climate change mitigation. And then finally, the other thing for a country like India, and I think this will be very important for students coming from India or who want to work on India, that still there is a huge population of the world which doesn't even have basic access to electricity. We have a lot of people who still live with very high levels of power cuts. They do not have access to energy sources like LPG. And if we were to provide all of that, maybe we need to increase our fossil energy use. But how do you do that in a world where the temperature is rising so quickly? This then adds another layer of challenge, which is particularly true for developing countries. And this is how then that even when you have a technology, you have so many other dimensions which slow down the pace of energy transition. And you would have noticed here that the question of energy transition essentially becomes a very interdisciplinary question. You're talking about economics, policy, governance, engineering, but also things like climate modeling, energy modeling. And the hope is that with this MTech, we can introduce all of these dimensions to you and provide you tools so that you can start working on energy transition and contribute to India's climate mitigation journey. So I'll give you a very quick example of how I have done that in the past. So let's just very quickly look at this graph for India. So this is basically how India's renewable energy and coal sources are placed. So this is a map. Wherever you see very dark shading, that's where a lot of solar in India is. Wherever you see the gray color, that's where the coal is. And you will notice that they are not at the same place. And what we found was that this is actually a big policy question among state governments, among central government, that if you are seeing your RE development in a location where basically there is no coal present, then likely what will happen is that over time, as you start reducing your coal consumption and shut down your coal mines, people are going to see massive unemployment in the eastern part of the country. And at the same time, all the new jobs are going to the western and southern part of the country. To really test this hypothesis and try to figure out will it really be the case and how big the job loss or the job gain could look like, we made use of our disciplinary understanding from energy planning, energy modeling, a bit of also understanding of the justice aspects of climate and climate policy, and build this analytical framework. It's too complicated to go into detail today, but what I want to highlight is that we were able to provide some very concrete empirical evidence that this hypothesis is true. And the government, because of that, requires concerted effort starting from today, even when we have not pledged for thermal power retirement, because generating new sources of employment is going to take a very long time. And we can't start planning for it in 2040 when we may pledge for reducing thermal power generation in the country. So you have to start early and you have to start now. But exactly what could be the options? That was the focus of this study. So we highlighted that it's not always going to be the case that green energy could be always a win-win strategy for all parts of the country. So you need to start looking at solutions at the state level, and you need to start looking at those solutions now. So this was just a very quick example of how all of those interdisciplinary concerns were brought together to answer a policy relevant question. And I hope this would be of interest for people who are thinking of applying for this MTech program. Similarly, we have done other work in transport as a sector and industry as well, and I'm happy to talk about it during the Q&A session. So very quickly now, wrapping up, I think this MTech can be a great place for people who are interested in bringing together multiple disciplines. So when it comes to mitigation, it could be energy modeling, climate modeling. It could also involve things like engineering, finance, even your training in humanities together to act on climate change mitigation. Professor Subimal has already highlighted how we are not only a place which is focused on research, but it can also actually provide you an opportunity to apply your knowledge to build up startups. And what I would also like to add is that apart from research, this policy relevant work has a big opportunity when it comes to placement at places like policy think tanks. They have really come up in the space of climate policy, climate mitigation and adaptation, and as well as industries are really interested in looking for climate smart investments and solutions, and I think this degree can help you train for that. So I'll end here. Shiba, I hope we are on time.
Yes, Anjali. Yes, no worries at all. So I think there is one viewer, Bhakti Vaghela. His query is related to your field. So maybe I'll read it out. Meanwhile, I'll put Professor Vishal Dixit on stage. He's our next faculty speaker. Hi, Vishal.
Hi Shiba, hi Anjali.
And yeah, so I'll read out the
Shall
question
I
for
share
us.
screen? Sure.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Please,
we can
please
take
go
it
ahead,
in
Shiba.
the section. No problem. We can take,
Sorry. I can hold back. I can hold back and
maybe
Shiba,
you
you
can
can go ahead.
upload your. Meanwhile, I'll read out this question. I
Sure.
think, Vishal, there is some background noise coming from your place. Traffic
Okay,
lights.
let me check that.
Shiba, I'll remove myself from stage if that's okay. My
No,
slides.
I wanted to read out Bhakti's question for
Oh,
you because yeah, this is a question based on energy, and meanwhile Vishal can upload it PPT. So Bhakti asks, his project is on energy assessment. He has gone to many manufacturing industries and found energy saving opportunities. He would like to work more on GHG mitigation and energy transition. So maybe he can reach
yeah.
out to you regarding this.
Definitely. And I think this is basically thinking about demand side solutions for mitigation. And there is a lot of interest in work which could be done. And it's very good to know that they're working on industry as a sector, because we generally focus on only buildings or households. So, very happy to have a chat with them if needed.
Yeah. So Bhakti, you can write to Professor Anjali Sharma if you have more queries. And now we have Professor Vishal Dixit on stage. He's our first core faculty at the Center for Climate Studies. Yeah, Vishal, over to you. Thanks,
Sure.
Anjali.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks Anjali. Thanks Shiba. Am I audible? Is the
Yes.
noise a bit less?
Noise is gone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you, my colleagues, for introducing our topic so fluently and telling multiple aspects related to climate science, adaptation, mitigation, and policy. I think my in next 15 minutes or so, my aim is to tell you that it's a bit like a puzzle which we all have to sort out together, like Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And out of this bigger puzzle that is climate, monsoons are one key piece of it. That would be my goal in some sense for next 14, 15 minutes. Okay, so Earth has seen some puzzling past. Let me also start. Maybe I'll let me laser pointer. Yeah. So as you can see that few billion years ago, Earth was a pale orange dot, where this pale orange dot was mainly atmospheric haze, and haze possibly was caused by microorganisms. So there's a bit of ecosystem interacting with the rest of the Earth system. Few million years ago, Earth was like a snowball. We all know the classic event of 66 million years ago, where dinosaurs got extinct, where tectonics was still kind of was equilibrated, but something interesting happened. People also think that this is
Vishal?
also an
Vishal, sorry.
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Your slides are not changing.
Oh, they are not changing.
No.
Oops. Okay. Um, so then we have to go for plan B. Uh,
Um.
but then the animation won't work actually. That's my worry.
Okay. Um.
Is there any other remedy?
Can you try again? Try uploading again. Let me see.
Uh, this was with sharing, because if maybe let me try it again with screen sharing.
Yeah, or you can use the present button and upload your PPT.
Okay, let me do that then. Although animations won't work, which is a bit of a downside. Yeah, it's getting uploaded. In the meantime, let me anyway use this time to tell you anyway what I was telling, so that when you see slides, you realize what I was telling you. So Earth has gone through these 66 million years ago, this transition where dinosaurs got extinct, and then even in our recent past, in mid-Holocene, monsoons have been significantly different than they are now, and we as human civilization have been here in a much recently. Are my slides up now? Okay.
Yes, now yeah,
So apologies to
perfect.
the audience. I guess some animations may not go through. I'll try to fill in for the animation, although I may not do as well. Okay. And present day Earth has some distribution of ice sheets. Uh, so the point I was telling you is civilization is possible because Earth's temperature is now habitable, especially for our species. If you see here, Earth was around 5 degrees colder few thousand years ago, and the recent phenomena of Homo sapiens is much recent, and this is possible because of this habitable temperature. How have we figured that this happens? You can already recognize some of the legends of this century, past few centuries. Fourier, the famous Fourier of Fourier transform and so on, he actually realized that the phenomena of greenhouse might be at place, which makes Earth's temperature habitable. Tyndall, who was interested in gas radiation and got excited by looking at large ice sheets in the Alps, about what really goes on, how these ice sheets are there, and so on. He figured that he went to the lab and did some experiments, figured out that the water vapor is a major greenhouse gas along with carbon dioxide, and there could be some feedback between carbon dioxide and water vapor. Arrhenius, the first Nobel laureate, also worked on this problem. Guy Callender, who was an engineer, he was not aware of this bigger problem, bigger implications of climate change, realized that maybe carbon dioxide warming could be beneficial because northern part of Europe was going through a severe cold wave, multi-decadal cold wave back then. My point of flashing this slide here is across different centuries, these people have played a fundamental role in understanding, bringing about the understanding of climate science. And in fact, your generation, my generation, and next few generations may have a role to play such fundamental role in designing, kind of bringing climate science and tying it to climate services and solutions to inform climate adaptation and mitigation. Okay, I'm not sure if this animation is going to go through, but I'll quickly tell you what you were supposed to see. That if you were to plot animation of rain, you will see that monsoons enter India from southeast corner, like from Sri Lanka and so on, and they go northwest towards Rajasthan. And the present latitudinal limit of monsoons is on kind of border between India and Pakistan. But what paleoproxies tell you that few thousand years ago, when the Indus Valley civilization was flourishing, this monsoon limit was much more farther north or northwestward. And the question is that how did that happen? And if the monsoons retreated, what sort of processes play a fundamental role? Okay, let me give you a glimpse of what happens during a typical monsoon season. We are looking at 2 drought years, and I am on purpose selected some old 1972 and 1975 years, even I was not born. So the purpose is we have been knowing as the season progresses on x-axis, there are different way rainfall pattern happens. In flood year, it's much more persistent, but in the drought year, which is a top figure, there are, I would say, the persistence goes away, and there are some active and break cycles of monsoon when the rain happens versus when the rain does not happen. And this particular problem of finding out when the monsoon break will trigger, when the rainfall will start going down, how long will such break persist, and how will the revival happen? This problem has been known for past 50 years. A lot of research has happened. We know that this phenomena is linked to lot of planning on ground, prediction, agriculture, all these sectors, it fundamentally influences, but we don't know how this happens. And I think we have started making some progress, but I think interdisciplinary expertise is required in cracking this puzzle open. Usually we model monsoons as a set of coupled differential equations. If you find this exciting, you could take a deeper dive in this mass, momentum, energy, water vapor conservation equations. But if you feel that, although I feel excited about these climate patterns, but I am not as much into analyzing these equations in great detail, then there are these equations and the numerical solvers are nicely clubbed together as a set of models. And here on x-axis, I'm showing you all the different phenomena that happen on different length scales on x-axis and on different time scales on y-axis. So near the origin is our weather, where the turbulence in the room that you are sitting in, how that influences you, how the air ventilation matters, up till gigantic scales in the top right corner, where we talk about climate and all the phenomena of this monsoon storms or oscillations of rain bands or interannual variability of monsoons. All of that is featured here. And we have a set of models which are nicely packaged codes which you could use to probe these rainfall patterns. So either you could work on improving these models, looking at a bit of math, but you could also use these models to understand patterns and to decode how they matter for all these different sectors. I will give you an example of one project that is ongoing in our center. The broad goal is to use hybrid machine learning and physics-based understanding. And the goal is to have early warning system for floods. The motivation here shown in the top is that most damage-causing extreme rainfall events are not captured by the current forecast models. I don't need to emphasize this, we all experience it in Mumbai. The bottom is a solution where we say that 4 different institutes, if they were to come together, work on weather processes, radiation, convection details, bringing knowledge of heat transfer fluid dynamics, smaller scale understandings of microphysics, about which my colleague Ravi will talk after me in a few minutes. If we were to kind of club all of this through machine learning understanding, then we might be able to actually provide a solution and provide a remedy for designing early warning systems for floods. So if we were to zoom out, I've been telling you about monsoons. If we were to zoom out, it's a bit of a reiteration, but I feel that I'll give you my understanding of how environment, climate, and sustainability are linked. So here on the left, we have spatially and temporally local environment in which you're sitting. Think of it as either physical, chemical, or biological surroundings in which you are. Then principles of sustainability will tell you that it should be an ideal state where human activities meet our needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. And if this happens, then civilizations flourish. But if there is a climate stress, which is a red arrow here, climate stress could be thought of as significant departure from the probability distribution functions for any of the climate variables, either physical, chemical, or biological. If that stress happens, Professor Angshuman was mentioning about carbon dioxide, then we need to engineer solutions, which is the green arrow here. We need to engineer solutions such that we bring back this ideal state. And if not, we still bring back some state which is which we can pass it on to our future generation. Okay, let's discuss some interesting problems where smart engineering solutions are required. And I'm pitching this as a learning opportunity, which is guaranteed. And I have 2 messages for you. One, that learning is a bigger opportunity than earning. That's one message. But also a complementary message is earning is a big part of learning, as you can see here. So there are important problems to be solved. There are important things to be learned. But since you will provide solutions to people, it also naturally implies you would have significant earning opportunities and making successful careers. Here I am trying to show you on x-axis different climate impact drivers, some of which my colleagues have already highlighted. For example, heat and cold, wet and dry states, where we could detail them as we want: extreme heat, extreme cold. We all experience this. Desertification or extreme wind gusts causing damages, snow and ice causing problems to apple farms or sapphire in Kashmir, coastal hazards. So on x-axis, these are these different impact drivers. On y-axis, everything that we face on day-to-day life. As an engineer, as a normal human being, as a policy person, as a research institute, or as a company, you can see that they are categorized under four categories: food, fiber, cities, health, poverty. And people have made an effort to map these as to how these different climate impact drivers affect each of these sectors. And there are important problems. The darker the shade here, where x and y axis cross each other, the more confidence we have. And that means one could design solutions which can directly make an impact. Let's discuss one particular topic which we have been discussing at length at Climate Studies, which if you were to be selected at Center for Climate Studies as a master student, you would also get an equal opportunity to contribute to and suggest, provide solutions. We were asking a question: how can we map sustainability footprint of our campus? This could be an individual question. It could be a question as a community level. And we thought maybe any sustainable development goal, we will ultimately need to sense our environment and keep sensing it for considerable time, such that we can get a sense for what sort of climate stress it undergoes in these five different sectors that Professor Subimal and some of my colleagues already may have mentioned. We will need a careful sensing of these variables: water, food, energy, transportation, health. If we have such a data set, then we can provide some new insights about calculating such a footprint and giving suggestions. So what we came up with was, this is the IIT Bombay campus. This is the kind of main gate. And if we were to kind of distribute different types of sensors, some sensors related to thermodynamic properties, related to wind properties, related to ecosystem properties, plant, soil moisture, and so on, related to anthropogenic kind of influences. And if you were to distribute such sensors, that would be one of the key steps in actually giving some fundamental insights. And as a part of MTech Climate Sustainability Lab course, you will get an ample opportunity to kind of tinker with these sensors, provide new suggestions, and kind of together, along with engineers in different departments, some new insights could appear. With this, I will kind of invite you to apply to our center. And if there are questions, maybe in the Q&A session, I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks, Shiva. Over to you.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you so much. So
Thanks.
I'll quickly add Akshaya's PPT here. Yeah. So Akshaya is here with us in the room.
Yeah, thank you, Shiva. Thanks, Vishal. I hope you're
Thank
able
you.
to hear me and you can see my slides. I'll just try maybe moving forward, backward. Yeah, if it is all right, maybe I'll start. Yeah, so we have had so far excellent talks, starting from early warning systems to adaptation to energy transition to monsoons. And I will try to maybe give you a brief overview of what I do. So I look at like Earth's atmosphere, and what I mean by Earth's dynamic atmosphere, hopefully it will be clear in next slide. Maybe I didn't introduce. I'm Akshaya Nikumbh. I joined IIT Bombay last year, so it's about 1 year for me in this center. Uh, I think my animation might not work here, but here I had captured a satellite video from yesterday. So if you look at clouds over India, we generally don't have much clouds in this season, this time of year. But there were some pockets where rainfall was received, and there were some pockets like Mumbai where we had like heat wave warning. And we tend to forecast them maybe a couple of days in advance where it will rain, where it won't. And how do we do that? So what kind of conceptual framework we use for that. That is something that my lab does, and I'll start with that. So when we look at like given day's picture of clouds or temperature or any other variable that you can relate to, we can tag them to different systems. So something like monsoon, which is shown here, is something that you might be aware of, or tropical cyclones. But apart from that, there are various systems, like there are various waves in atmosphere, there are different oscillations, or something called like Hadley sail, Walker sail, which you might not have heard. So I cover that, and in my coursework, plus we try to also look at how to understand these features. So these features come under something called large scale circulation or dynamics. So when I say large scale, these are like systems which are more than hundreds of kilometers. And when I say circulation or dynamics, you can imagine it as movement of air or flow, as word suggests. Yeah, so how do we study them? So this come under like something called atmospheric and fluid dynamics. So I've enlisted like a couple of books. These are like bit of technical books, but if you're interested, you can actually have look at like syllabus for this using these books. You can get online like content of these books, so that you get some idea of what kind of topics are covered in this subject. So that's why I have enlisted that. Then how do we study? So we use all sorts of tools, as Vishal also mentioned. We use theory, so we can use pen and pencil, so you can look at different equations that comes under something called theory. So those are like equations that describe state of atmosphere. We also verify them with observations. So in my previous slide, I had tried to show like clouds and how they are distributed all over globe. And we can then test like whatever theoretical knowledge we have using observations. And we also do simulations. So our knowledge that we gain from theory observation, we also encode them in climate model. So on right hand side of this particular slide, you can see it is climate model, and it is divided into different grids. So each of these different location have different physical processes that are encoded. So when forecasts are given, they are based on these physics-based equations that we understand from climate. So this is how we approach this subject, Earth's dynamic atmosphere. So today I thought I'll give you a very brief intro to one topic. If you want to learn something, how does it look? So this is like very conceptual framework of how we understand something called Hadley sail. So this is 3D cross-section view of Earth's atmosphere. I hope you can see my cursor. If you are able to see, then here this close to 0 degrees, which is like red in color, is Earth's equator. And as we go north and south, which is like where it gets light green and blue, those are like northern latitudes where it is like US is located, or those are like polar locations. So if you look at something that is very close to tropics around 0 degree latitude, you see something called Hadley sail. So air rises at equator from surface to top of atmosphere, then it goes north, and then it descends around 30 degrees latitude, which is subtropics, and then it comes back at surface. So this forms like circulation called Hadley sail. This is something very relevant for us, because where we have ascending branch of Hadley sail, that's where we get like rainfall, clouds form over there. And we can understand general pattern of rainfall when we look at like entire globe. So earlier animation, which I could not show, had like clouds in tropical regions. So those clouds are formed where you get rising branch of Hadley sail. Yes, I hope I can go to next slide. Yeah. So basic ingredient to understand that is very simple. This is something you would have learned in school. Why do we get different seasons? So Earth is planet which is rotating around sun, and whichever hemisphere faces sun determines whether it will be summer or winter. And we get like this entire seasonal cycle starting from Jan 1st to December 31st, which is our calendar year. And we can also divide these dates into different seasons. That depends on at that time whether in which phase we are. So this is like simple seasonal cycle. Apart from that, what is also important to understand, when we receive energy from sun, it is received at different latitudes differently. So what I mean by that is differential heating. I'll come back to that word, differential heating, again. But when we receive solar radiation in tropics, it is more. When we go slightly north towards pole, we receive less solar radiation. So there is differential heating. Apart from that, even if in tropics we receive maybe similar amount of solar radiation, whether it is land or ocean, they would respond differently. So land has less heat capacity so it warms up quickly. So temperature over land changes faster than ocean, which has higher heat capacity. So it takes longer time for ocean to warm. And this is also important to understand different features when we look at like features over ocean, features over atmosphere. So this is about energetic framework of understanding the impact of solar radiation on weather systems that we observe. On right hand side, I have also mentioned dynamics or laws of motion. So what do I mean by that? We know Earth is rotating, and effect of rotation is also felt differently in different parts of world. So in tropics, we are away from this rotating axis of Earth, so we feel less effect of rotation. As we go closer to pole, we receive actually more effect of rotation. I'll come back to that also in a couple of slides. But yeah, this is like basic framework of how do we understand different weather systems on Earth. Yes. So, as I was mentioning, in tropics, we receive more sunlight or more solar insolation. So here, shading indicates energy received or power received in tropics and pole. So red color indicates we receive more energy in tropics, which is about 400 watts per meter square. And blue color indicates we receive less energy, which is 200 watts per meter square. So tropics receive almost twice energy from sun than pole. And this happens because you can see here, like over tropics, local perpendicular. So solar insolation is received at perpendicular. As we go towards pole, the angle of local perpendicular to solar insolation, so something called declination angle, is more. So like in tropics, suppose we receive energy over hundreds or thousands of kilometers, the same amount of energy in pole would be received over larger area, which is about 2000 kilometers. So that's why this half of energy received at pole. Yeah, so this is one way to understand how energy is received differently at different latitudes. The other important factor in understanding total energy balance is not only Earth receives energy, but Earth also releases energy. So here in this figure, if we look at this blue curve, this is something that is incoming solar radiation that I was talking earlier. And here this red color indicates Earth energy released by Earth, which is generally in infrared radiation. Total energy in tropics is actually difference between input energy, which comes from sun, and energy that goes out of Earth, which is shown over here in red. So difference between these two. So there is net gain of energy in tropics. On the other hand, if we go to higher latitude, energy which is lost by Earth is more than energy received. So there is net loss of energy. You can imagine for this is total net heat received in tropics versus extratropics. So there is net energy gain at lower latitudes, and there is net energy loss. So whenever there is differential heating, that would trigger winds. This is something that would be intuitive to you, right? Like to get circulation or to get winds, there has to be differential gradient. So that's why we get this Hadley sail. So this is idealized case where Earth, if it was not rotating, because of this differential heating, which is like tropics receive more and pole receive less energy, we would have gotten this one cell where air rises in tropics, goes to north. So this circulation would transport energy from lower latitudes to higher latitudes. But we know we don't get only one cell, but there are multiple cells. And why does that happen? Because to understand that, we need to also consider other factor, which is Earth is also rotating. So that rotation effect, earlier, as I was mentioning, in tropics, we almost don't receive effect of rotation, because if you see local perpendicular for tropical weather system would be perpendicular to axis of rotation. So axis of rotation goes from north to south, but here if you look at like local perpendicular for uh, tropics, it would be perpendicular to axis of rotation. So we don't really feel effect of rotation in tropics, but as we go towards pole, the distance from axis of rotation also decreases, and we feel more effect of rotation. So that is capsulated by something called Coriolis parameter. So as we move more and more towards pole, effect of Earth rotation is felt more. So that is called differential rotation. So that then invokes something called angular momentum conservation. So these are just conservation principle, but if we combine those two, which is like differential heating and angular momentum conservation, you can write those equations down on paper and come up with where would this Hadley cell, end, and that can give you like theoretical expectation of how big this Hadley cell would be, and that matches pretty well with what we observe. So this is like complex view of different weather systems on Earth. One is Hadley cell that I described. Likewise, we can also understand why do we get easterly trade winds or westerly winds in extratropics, or in polar region we receive easterly winds. So this distribution we understand quite well with theoretical framework, which are basic laws of conservation of momentum, conservation of energy, that can tell us a lot about this weather system. The other thing that is fascinating about Hadley cell circulation, here again, unfortunately, this animation won't work. But if we look at like what it was trying to show was, here this shading shows rainfall received in that particular month for January, and these arrows show Hadley cell. So Hadley cell that I gave you conceptual picture of was annual mean picture of that sale. But if we look at like specific day or month, location where it there is rising branch and sinking branch would change depending on which season we are in. So here, like this is suppose January month, so we do see sinking in extratropics, like away from equator. But if we look at like monsoon month, we get rising branch of Hadley cell over India. So that's what is monsoon is, where we have the shift of rain band over Indian region, and that's where you get this rising branch of Hadley cell circulation. That's where we get rain. So this is bigger context of what monsoon is. It was very basic conceptual framework just to give you a hint of how do we understand this system. Likewise, there are various research topics or like colleagues do here at our climate department. Please check this website. You can look at like research tab and click on these different research projects that we have been doing. And I'm happy to take questions. Thank you. Yeah, Shiva, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you. That was Professor Akshaya Nikumbh from our Center for Climate Studies. And yeah, please keep posting your queries in the live YouTube live chat. And also, I have an announcement to make. Professor Angshuman Modak will be explaining, clearly the MTech selection procedure during the Q&A session in 1 or 2 minutes. So please stay till the end, because we've been getting many queries on the exact selection procedure through gate or otherwise. So please stay us with till the end. And next we have on board is Professor Ravichandran. Hi, Ravi.
Hi,
And there's
can
a
you
lot of
hear me?
background noise, Ravi.
Okay. I'll try and fix that 1 second. Okay, that works, eh?
It is still quite noisy. So Akshaya says that you can unplug your headset. Okay.
You're online. So
Yeah. So Suyash, would you like to go next till Ravi figures out his? Yeah. Yeah, maybe we will do that. So we also have Professor Suyash Bire with us in the room here. No, he's not. Yeah, you can have. Yeah. You have uploaded your PPT now. I'll just put it on the. Yeah. So he's also our very young faculty. He joined just 2 months back. Professor Suyash.
Hi everyone. Thanks Shiva. Thanks for introducing me. So Professor Ravi S. Ravichandran ran into some technical issues, so we'll have his talk after me. I'll just give my talk for the next 10-15 minutes. So I joined here, like Shiva said, I joined here a couple of months ago, and my specialization is in oceanography. And then I'll talk a little bit about oceanography for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll talk about what I have been doing and what I see MTech or PhD students doing in the department, students who would work with me doing in the department. Okay. So this picture on the left shows the currents in the ocean. So some of the currents are red, so they're warm currents. So for example, you could see Gulf Stream along the coast of the US. So they basically carry warm water from the equator towards the poles. So like Professor Akshaya and Nikumbh mentioned, the equator gets a lot of heat because it's closer to the sun. So atmosphere near the equator is warm. The case for the ocean is similar. And then these warm currents carry heat towards the poles, and then they influence weather and long-term climate. For example, Europe stays warmer than the eastern coast of US partly because Gulf Stream transports a lot of heat towards Europe. Another feature you see here is they are all gyres. So all the water that goes, or most of the water that goes northwards from the equator comes back down towards the equator on the other side of the boundaries. So this is known as gyre circulation, and it's mostly confined to the upper 1,000 meters of the ocean, about 1,000 meters of the ocean, and it's mainly driven by the wind. So we consider this to be the surface circulation. The next component of the ocean circulation is the thermohaline circulation. So the word thermohaline comes from temperature and salinity. So what happens in the ocean is that the density of seawater is controlled by temperature and salinity. So as temperature increases, density goes down, and as salinity increases, density goes up. So there's a competition between temperature and salinity in determining the density. So these figures on the left show the topmost figure shows temperature, the middle figure shows salinity, and they combine to form densest waters in the North Atlantic and around Antarctica. And this is where, because this water is very dense, this is where this water sinks to the bottom of the ocean. And then so we have density again here on the left, on the figure in the left. So you see the densest water sinks in the North Atlantic and near Antarctica, and then it flows. Some of it flows at the bottom of the ocean, and then it comes back up to the surface in the Southern Ocean and in the Central Indian Ocean and the Central Pacific Ocean. And this process is very slow. It takes about 1,000 years, roughly, for a parcel of water to traverse this entire path. So you can imagine if the ocean uptakes some carbon dioxide in the North Atlantic and pushes it down into the deeper layers, it will take thousands of years for that carbon dioxide to come back to the atmosphere. So ocean actually helps sequester a lot of carbon. And it's actually helped us regulate our climate over the past 50 or so years. It's helped us, unknowingly, it's helped us mitigate the effects of all the carbon that we've been releasing over the past 50 or so years. So it's important to study ocean circulation. But this was all mean circulation. So all these circulation patterns appear when you average the circulation over a very long period of time. But if you were to look at an instantaneous snapshot, for example, in this figure, so this is from one ocean model run at NASA. And this is an instantaneous snapshot. You can clearly see there is a lot of turbulence in the ocean. So you see, for example, there are these rings coming into the Atlantic Ocean off of the southern tip of Africa. So those are Agulhas rings. So there are these sort of features, many small detailed features in the ocean. So, so the devil is in the details. You need to understand what they are doing. You also need to understand what the mean flow is doing. So that was what my research was. My PhD research was about. So this figure on the left shows an instantaneous snapshot. Again, this is an idealized simulation of an ocean basin. So you can roughly consider it to be the size of, say, you can consider it as a swimming pool of the size of North Atlantic Ocean. So the figure on the left shows instantaneous turbulence. So you get a lot of mesoscale eddies, or you get a lot of small scale eddies. But figure on the right shows what you would get if you average this circulation over a long period of time. So the red arrow shows how warm water would flow in this basin, and then that warm water basically goes eastward and northward, and then it sinks and it comes back down as the blue arrow. So it comes back down towards the south at a deeper level. So there is this interaction going on between these small scales and these mean scale flow, and it still is an open question. And what happens usually is, because we have to run climate models, we have to predict how climate will change in the future. We have to run climate models, and these climate models tend to be expensive and they require a lot of computational power. So we compromise on the resolution. So when you compromise on the resolution, you cannot, the models cannot see the small scale features on the left. They can only see the large scale or the mean flow on the right. And then, so there is a need to represent the effects of these small scale circulation patterns or these eddies on the mean flow. And then that problem is known as the eddy parameterization problem. And there's research going on it, and it's still an unknown problem. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and every small contribution to this parameterization problem basically helps us improve our climate models and helps us improve future projections. So it is an important problem. So I'm hopeful that AI ML can help in these sort of problems. It's especially in oceanography, AI ML has already been used for a couple of decades at least. So this figure on the left shows sea surface temperature obtained from one of the satellites. And the figure on the figure, you can clearly see there are these bands of missing data in the top figure on the left, and that's because how the satellite moves. And then there are also rain bands that the satellite cannot see through. So the data that you get from the satellite has many gaps in it, and then there is a need to fill those gaps. So the technique that has been used for the past couple of decades is known as optimal interpolation. It's also known as Kriging or Gaussian process regression. So it's basically a data-driven technique, or you can also you can call it a machine learning technique, and it's been used in the field for at least a couple of decades now. Then another thing that I'm working on currently is emulation. So like I explained, the numerical ocean models are quite expensive. So one way you can use AI ML is to train a neural network to basically emulate a numerical model, and then the AI ML model tends to be much more cheaper than the numerical model. So a lot of work has been done on this recently. For example, I've cited some of these studies, one of them being mine. So I continue to work on this problem. Then another field where AI ML can be useful is in the parameterization problem. Like I said, there is a need to represent the effect of small scales on the mean flow, and it's AI ML will be helpful in that sense, in that problem as well. You can, from the publications there, you can clearly see it's an up and coming field, and people have been looking at using AI ML to improve ocean models. So these are some of the kind of problems that you can tackle if you're interested in oceanography and come here for MTech program or for the PhD program. This is my last slide. So I wanted to add, like Subimal also mentioned in his talk, all these big tech giants have gotten interested in using AI ML for weather forecasting. And they're doing quite well. The European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast actually has operationalized some of these models. So they work quite well. They're comparable to a fully physics-based dynamical model. And then we also want to adapt these for the ocean circulation as well. So one, ocean and atmosphere are quite similar. One big difference is that the scales in the ocean are much smaller than the atmosphere. So for example, a weather process in the atmosphere spans thousands of kilometers. In the ocean, it'll only span around 10, 15, 20 kilometers. So one problem is that you need really large AI ML models, or you need many more parameters than the atmospheric problem. So that's one challenge that we are facing in this field. But it's fertile for doing new research. So so yeah, that was my last slide. And I was supposed to go last, so I have I put up this slide. If you want to get in touch with any of us, feel free to send us an email. But yeah, I think Ravi is Ravi ready? So maybe Ravi can take over now. Shiva, you want to go?
Okay, thank you, Suyash. So we will have Professor Ravichandran next. So on the slide, you can see the email IDs of all the faculty members at the Center for Climate Studies. You can directly reach out to them over email. Meanwhile, I'll quickly add Ravi. Hi, Ravi. Here is your slide. Yeah, that noise is gone. Thank you so much.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly clear. Over to you, Ravi.
All right, very good. So yeah, sorry I usurped Suyash's last NQ status. I'm Ravichandran. You can call me Ravi, although most people here, never mind. I'll start right away. I don't have much of a preamble. So I'm a fluid dynamicist by training. I studied as an aerospace engineer and then a physicist. I see my slides are changing. Okay, very good. So you've seen some version of this already in Vishal's presentation. Sorry, there's some disturbance. I'm still audible, right? I'm still audible?
Yeah.
Shiva?
We can clearly hear you, yeah. Maybe some signal issue at your end, but it's very clear from here. Can you hear us?
Yeah, okay, sorry. My internet connection
yeah, that's what.
Did something, but I'm back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So sorry about that. So I was just saying you've seen some version of this already. Vishal and Suyash both talked about this, scales in the atmosphere. I'm a fluid dynamicist by training. There's fluid dynamics at all scales in the atmosphere. I work on. Sorry, I work on the small scales of flow. These are turbulence. These are flows with a lot of turbulence. Having botched up the intro, let me tell you, we work on all kinds of things. We work on fluid dynamics in the ocean. We work on fluid dynamics in the atmosphere. Today, I'll only tell you about some stuff we do about clouds. Clouds are mixtures of air and water vapor and so forth that you instinctively, all of you know about clouds. We study lots of things about clouds. How do clouds mix with the environment? That's a big unsolved problem in climate change. How does rain occur? That's a big unsolved problem in cloud physics. But today I'll tell you about lightning and hail. Lightning is lightning is lightning is awesome. I keep hearing echoes. That's why I'm.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, okay. My bad. This is just terrible.
Remove the headphones on your neck. Those headphones. That might be
These are
creating.
just the mics. But anyway,
Now it's
so lightning is involves a lot of physics. You all know about lightning. It's electrical discharge in the atmosphere. What you may not know is that it's also a major natural hazard. It was surprising to me when I found out. So I imagine it's surprising to you. About a third of all natural hazard deaths occur because of lightning. So as I said, lightning occurs when the dielectric strength of air is exceeded, and there's enough positive and negative charge in the atmosphere, and there's a discharge of some kind. Lightning doesn't just occur with rain clouds. It also occurs in volcanic eruptions and so forth. We've actually done some work on the volcanic eruptions and how they lead to lightning. You can look this paper up. The QR code on screen should lead you to the paper. We're working on what does the lightning distribution over India look like, and this is the climatology. This doesn't quite. There's one Kashmir, there's Western Bangladesh, and then over the Western Ghats. And we're trying to understand why does lightning occur in this pattern over the country. And this is a talk about the program, and the talk is about fluid dynamics and sustainability. Subimal mentioned early warnings. The whole point of early warnings, founded on a solid foundation of science. The whole point of doing this kind of science is to use what we learn to make early warning possible. So if you are able to say that there's going to be a whole bunch of lightning in a certain area at a certain time, you will save lives by doing that. That's the point. The second thing I want to tell you about is hail. Again, you all know what hail is. Hail is ice balls in the small spheres of ice that form in the clouds, and these are not quite as fatal as lightning is. They don't kill as many people, but they do cause a lot of damage to infrastructure and to crops, particularly fruits. These two pictures are from Himachal Pradesh. They're showing that if there is a hailfall which people are not warned about, it leads to a massive loss of crops, because nobody wants to buy pockmarked apples, you see. So you can lose a lot of revenue that way. So we have again, we're doing both. We're trying to understand fundamentally why hail forms in the clouds. How does hail form in the clouds? And then we use that physical understanding to help orchard farmers in the Himalayas avoid the destructive effects of hail. I just want to tell you the physics of hail formation are very poorly understood. you can go up that I've linked, put up on the slide there. The last thing I will tell you about is urban extremes. These are, again, you will probably have heard of urban heat islands. In the last week or so, there was a newspaper report saying Mumbai, different localities in Mumbai have temperatures that differ by as much as 13 degrees Celsius. So the point is, it's important to understand the fluid dynamics of why this happens, and what can be done about it. I think there was a question about how can architecture be made smarter to avoid or mitigate the urban heat island effect. This is an ongoing thing. Vishal showed you a picture of the IIT Bombay campus and an ongoing effort we have at monitoring the levels of temperature and pollution on campus, and then doing something about it. So the idea is, first we understand what is happening, and then we do something about it. There is this, what you can do for flow around buildings, you can also do for flow inside a given room. This is indoor ventilation. We want to understand what happens to the airflow in a classroom, for example. And this is part of the ventilation committee at IIT Bombay. We give guidelines for how classrooms should be better designed so that carbon dioxide levels, temperature levels in the classrooms are kept to a minimum. I think I will stop there. So since Suyash wanted to put this up, I'll put this up here on the screen. And I apologize again for the technical glitch, but I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you very much. So, viewers, this was the last talk of our information session today. And yeah, so I want to invite now Professor Angshuman Modak on stage. Wait, I'll add him. So he will be explaining the MTech selection procedure, because many of you have, doubts about the actual selection process. Yeah, Angshuman, you are on stage. You wanted to share some PPT, right?
Not PPT, I
can't
will
see
share
it.
my screen.
Okay,
Hello
perfect.
everyone.
Perfect.
I'll introduce now to.
You're audible.
Don't show this. Yeah. Is my screen now there? Shiva, can you tell me if my screen is
There, it's there. Yeah, yeah.
okay? You see my screen now, right? And not. What do you
We
see?
can see your screen. We can see your screen. The website that you were showing us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Fine,
hello
fine.
everyone. Because there are many queries on the program and the admission process, and I have been writing, but people are joining later. They are also asking. So we thought of showing you the process. So please go to our climate studies website. Okay. When you go to the website, you will see this, and from here you go to this tab, academics. Here you will see MTech PhD. So because you are interested in MTech in sustainability, climate and sustainability, click this MTech, and then you will reach the MTech in climate and sustainability. So you will get all the information regarding the MTech program here. So now you will also get the information what are the four broad areas, four research themes that faculty members at Center for Climate Studies are working from this MTech information brochure. From the IIT admission website page, if you click that, you will go to this website, and you will see that here it is clearly written. Applicants applying for teaching assistantship, TA, teaching assistantship through project, TAP, research assistantship, RA, research assistantship through project categories need to register on the Common Offer Acceptance Portal, co-op portal basically. The admission offers will be made via co-op. So it is basically through your grade score, the direct admission will take place for TA, TAP, RA, RAP categories. Okay. And actually the co-op portal is, I believe is already open from 20th March or later dates to go to which all categories you can actually I mean what all gate cutoff scores are there for different papers. So in our website only, this website, in this page itself, you can see there is a document which tells all the rules and also the gate cutoff scores, okay, for general category here. These are the gate papers. How many seats are allocated for these papers? I mean, applicants with these papers, applicant with this paper. For example, XE is the atmospheric sciences paper, where one seat is dedicated for that paper particularly, and the gate cutoff score is 400. For the XH, AG, ecology, geology, aerospace engineering, agricultural engineering, the gate cutoff score is 400. For environmental science, architecture, chemical engineering, you have 500. Physics, EE, EC, data science, ME, civil, CS are all 500, the gate cutoff score, and 3 seats are there. And rest of the others are having 1 seat with cutoff score of 500. The category information you can get, and for SW, sponsored candidates, institute staff, project staff category, and IIT graduate will be, for them, there will be an interview, physical mode interview for the selection process. I hope now this has answered all your queries. So please visit our website and also IIT Bombay website if you have any doubt anytime, right? Many other information are also there in the IIT Bombay website. Okay, thank you. I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you, Angshuman.
Thanks.
That will be good. People can view this YouTube video later if they have any doubts regarding the MTech selection procedure. So I will put all the core faculty on stage now, and we can quickly look at the questions. Hi Vishal, hi Ravi, hi Jaideep, hi Anjali. Yeah, and Professor Suyash and Professor Akshaya are here in the room with us. So, yeah. So we have all the core faculty members online with us. And let me quickly go through the questions that you guys had posted. So Ray Pratyush, is your query resolved? You say that your gate score is 443, cutoff is 500. Can I still apply for this course? Uh, so Ray says that his gate in PH is 443, but the cutoff mentioned is 500. Can he still apply for this course? Are the gate score cutoffs mentioned going to be very strictly enforced?
Yeah, the information is already there in the website. Basically, you can of course apply, but you have not crossed the cutoff, right? So you will not be shortlisted.
And Professor Vishal Dixit has already responded to few queries, so that's good. Thank you, Vishal. And yeah, okay. So Top G, someone called Top G is asking who will be our main faculty. All the esteemed professors taking this webinar. Yes, so all the core faculty members here will be taking the MTech courses. So you'll get to work with them.
But they're free to take electives from other departments.
But they are free to take electives from other departments.
They've
Yes.
associated faculty as well.
Yes. And let me check more questions. So Radhin Vishnu, I hope your query is resolved. You asked if there is an RAP program for this MTech. It is there. So your query is resolved. Yes. Bhakti Waghela, your query is resolved. Yes. Okay. Farhan Siddiqui, he says, how can a working professional enroll and be eligible for this course? He has 1.5 years of RE experience, renewable energy, 1 year in wind, and currently 5 months in floating solar. He wants to do this MTech program full time. So will he need a gate score, or since he has some 1.5 years of experience, work experience. Angshuman?
Yeah, so I think such details they can find from the information brochure or from our website. The point is that if you are if you are applying through the sponsored category, there will be a physical interview
Yes.
for the selection process. And if
Yes.
you have anyway a valid gate score, and if you are above the cutoff, because basically you are meeting the cutoff, then you can of course apply also using your gate score through the co-op portal.
Co-op portal. So Farhan, I hope that resolves your query. And we have Aditi Sanjeevi. She asks if you can talk about transition from architecture to climate studies and the career trajectory after that. Architecture.
I think this question is about climate resilience, I think. So actually our center does have a set of faculty, so civil engineers, people from management studies, and also they collaborate sometimes with IDC, which is a design school. And through that, there have been some such projects in the past. So there is such an opportunity. So far as the eligibility is met, we would encourage the student to apply.
Shiva, if there are
There are
no more, if
no,
few
there are a
more
few more.
are there,
Yeah.
if no, like also I would like to, maybe you can show the where our alumni are placed now. Maybe you can show that as well.
Okay, I do not have any slide ready for that. Do any of you have that? It's there?
Official website.
Oh, okay. Oh, Suyash, you were telling something. You had sent some email.
We have it in email.
Yeah. I'll show it. I'll show it in some time. I'll just quickly look at these questions again. Okay, Jayesh Maurya says that he has his graduation in petroleum engineering. So he can apply, right? His background is eligible.
Shiba, I have that email that Professor Suyash shared. I am happy
Yeah,
to volunteer and read, and also
that would be
invite
great.
my colleagues to add on top if
That would be
that
great.
works.
Yeah.
So, so actually, Professor Suyash and Shiva actually collated some of this information. So, Dr. Sindhuja Kastala graduated as a PhD student. She is a senior program associate at Just Transition and Climate at iForest. She was previously at GIS Kernel. So, her knowledge in geospatial mapping, also looking at policy aspects during her PhD, has helped her work there. Dr. Naman Gupta is a state program manager at UNDP India. Dr. Swati Shinde is an independent researcher, but has won, I think, a few awards on communicating climate sciences, climate adaptation mitigation in the past on an international forum. Dr. Srinath Haran Iyer is right now working at GE Vernova. This student actually had won the X Prize that Elon
Yes.
Musk usually, I mean, Elon Musk's company gives away. That was quite a proud moment for us a few years ago. Dr. Priyanka Jalal works for Trent Limited, which is a Tata company. Dr. Tarul Sharma works for Well Labs. Pankaj Kumar works for Query at Qatar. Dr. Rakesh Sinha works for Guy Carpenter. He was working for Marsh McLennan before. Dr. Ankur Pandit works for TCS. The TCS's branch on research and innovation. Dr. Prashant Dave used to work at NextNav. Dr. Nitin Patil works for Weather Modeling Group at Hewlett Packard. Professor Ghosh mentioned that many of these software companies are readily kind of transitioning, opening branches which are relevant to climate and sustainability. Hewlett Packard have been having such a branch for a few years, and Dr. Patil works there. Dr. Hitashri Shastri works as a head of data analytics. TIX Ecosystem Private Limited. So you will see that this list is long. You will see that there are broad categories where people have kind of found kind of application of their expertise, contributing meaningfully. So if we were to categorize, there have been few in data analytics, risk assessment and reinsurance industry, energy research and solutions industry, geolocation, GIS, that sort of an industry, and several NGOs informing climate adaptation, mitigation, and policy. But we'll invite my colleagues to add on top. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks Vishal for reading out the long list. It is indeed a long list. So I just want to add here that as all of us, every one of us has mentioned one way or the other, starting from Professor Subimal Ghosh, that our department is interdisciplinary, meaning that you have science, we have adaptation, we have mitigation. So the knowledge, the science knowledge is also being used, being used by the students, to go into companies where they apply climate data, where they use AIML techniques to handle climate data. So there are companies like that, so you can be placed in such places also. So there is a question from a CSE graduate who says that Manoj Gude, he has written a GATE paper in XH. So yeah, of course it is eligible. You are eligible even though you have written an XH paper.
Professor Angshuman, I just wanted to add a couple of more lines. So actually this field is emerging, and so when we interact with different companies, we realize that many of these companies are also trying to still set the pathways for sustainability reporting, climate risk reporting, or doing these breakthroughs in future weather and climate forecasting. And I think this field is exponentially growing day by day, and some fundamental contributions, there's scope to do some fundamental contributions in the way such reportings happen, the ways in which such reports are compiled for companies, by consulting companies, or by the companies themselves as a disclosure. But if you were to again take a wider view, I think as an IIT Bombay MTech kind of program, this is an opportunity to, I feel, in general, raise the bar for the climate analytics that is done in Indian industry in this field of climate and sustainability. So our students, when they will graduate and go in different companies, we are sure that in general the bar would be raised with the training we hope we will give them, and in the process we will. This will also merge industry academia gap. So that's a couple of lines I wanted to share. Thanks.
Thanks, Vishal. You have answered a query on climate entrepreneurship opportunities and placement opportunities. People are asking about placement and entrepreneurship opportunities in climate studies. So, yeah. I think we have covered all questions. Okay, is CSIR net taken into consideration for admission to the MTech course if the score is above the net JRF cutoff? Ray Pratyush has asked this question.
Right. So for that much detail, I think you have to see the brochure.
Brochure.
Yeah.
But
At
mostly
this top of my mind, it is not there. As far as I know, it is primarily the GATE score, which is being used through the co-op portal for direct admission, and not CSIR net JRF.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
for the PhD admission.
Exactly. So yeah, I think with this we have covered all questions. Would you like to add any more information for placement opportunities? Or
Shiba, I can maybe add. So just adding, we have covered a lot of industry where I think it was very clearly highlighted that industry which requires maybe core competency in climate science engineering, that definitely is a place where graduates of such a degree can go. But it's also worth highlighting, given the design of the program, even though it's an engineering MTech degree, this also would open opportunities for people to work in policy for clean energy and climate, be it mitigation or adaptation, because a lot of policy think tanks, and maybe say if you were to work with the government directly or indirectly in the position of consultant, would require you to have knowledge of the core fields involved in climate change. But not just that, they want you to not just be trained in a single field, which is in a way a big reason to design it as an interdisciplinary program. So for people who want to have a direct engagement with any sort of planning or policy opportunities, so in the case of India, a lot of it happens in think tanks. So what I mean by think tanks is places which are not doing core academic research the way in which publish papers, but they do research and policy relevant research, which is sometimes done directly with the government, but sometimes done independently, and then it feeds to what kind of policies governments are making. So they are doing work which it has a very real time application. So it may have shorter turnaround time compared to academia. So of course, anyone who's interested in academia, this is a very good degree. But if you want to be engaged in policy making, either in the think tank space or even international organizations, so we heard UNDP, but places like the World Bank, UN also look for people because that's their core interest in finding solutions. So this can also sort of feed in into a profile which can be relevant for such spaces. So just wanted to highlight that.
Maybe if I may add something on top of Professor Anjali, just one more point. At IIT Bombay, actually, IIT Bombay promotes entrepreneurial kind of aspirations. And recently, I just saw 6 months ago, I think there was a big drive to, if you have new ideas in sustainability or climate, there's also some seed funding given under something called SIGN. And so IIT Bombay promotes this sort of an effort and encourages students to translate their ideas into an incubation. Thanks.
Okay, so I'll just tell you the full form of SIGN. SIGN is Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. It is an umbrella organization at IIT Bombay for fostering entrepreneurship and nurturing tech startups. So you can visit their website, signIITB.org, if you're interested in climate entrepreneurship information. So yeah, okay, we have, I think, one last question by Bhakti. She says that the the program for sponsored candidates is for 3 years. How should we cover all the 3 years with working under the projects? Okay. Angshuman, would you like to answer that? Angshuman, you're on mute.
So you have to definitely do the courses, but they will, in the first semester itself, you will finish your core courses. And in 3 years' time, typically in the beginning semesters only, you have to cover your the credit requirement. And the project you can go for longer for the sponsored candidates. So because they are sponsored, so they they might have to go back to their company, or so they get more time for completing the project. However, further
Shiva,
details you can definitely find from the IITB admission page, MTech admission page. Please go and check the details so that you are aware of every single point, right? Yeah, sorry, Vishal.
thanks. No. Shiva, I had a request for you. Actually, can you also kind of summarize a bit about the prize that is given in the field of climate and sustainability every year to promote new kind of ideas within IIT Bombay? So there's a prize funded by Kapoor family. We want to say what sort of ideas were kind of funded, or just some summary, because I guess that would also be ultimately open to MTech students and novel ideas at some point.
Yeah, so we have this what do you call it? I do not remember the full form for Access Awards. It's a prize like Vishal mentioned, and it's established by our alumni donors who are very interested in contributing to sustainability and climate and sustainability ideas. Yeah, so if you have any startup idea in climate and sustainability, you can. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Akshaya. Access is accelerating climate, energy, and sustainable solutions. So this is not a program. This is a student competition by our alumni donors, Dr. Vinaya Kapoor and Dr. Sameer Kapoor. You can check this out on our climate website, Access Award. Would you like to add something? Yeah. So this is basically a student competition. We should have one IIT in the group. But if you have any climate or sustainability related ideas which you want to, translate into a startup, you can apply for this competition. I'll post the link in the chat box. You can check it out. Yeah.
Thanks, Shiva.
Also, Akshaya mentioned that maybe Angshuman can post the link for MTech brochure in the link in the live chat.
That he showed.
Yeah, you can post this.
Well, I can do that, but it is already there in the website.
Yes. So Top G says he would love to apply for Access Award. That's wonderful.
Yes, I'm sharing the link.
Yeah. Yeah, we just shared the link.
Yeah, I'll also post link for
sign. Yeah. And Vineet is asking if you expect programming languages as a prerequisite for a mechanical engineer who wants to go into climate modeling stuff. Yes, kind of, yes.
Yes, I would say yes. Any understanding of algorithms, I think specific programming languages would change. But if algorithmic thinking is there, then adapting to languages is possible. Yeah. So algorithmic thinking is what. But I'll invite Ravi to add something on top if he wants to.
The question is, what programming languages is it?
Do you expect programming languages as a prerequisite for a mechanical engineer who wants to go into climate modeling?
Yeah, although what programming languages is it's an open question. If I would suggest, if you don't know any language right now, learn Julia and Python. If you like some of us are stuck with C and Fortran, that can be made to work, but you end up doing Python anyway.
But a basic knowledge of any of the programming language is also sufficient. It's not a prerequisite as such.
You can pick up
Yes.
programming.
Yeah, sure. I guess it matters. It depends on what kind of modeling they want to do. Like if you want to run a solver and plot the results, you don't have to write the solver yourself, but you do need to know Python to plot the thing. I see somebody's had the brilliant idea of using ChatGPT to do the programming for us. This is fine. It will do 2 + 2 = 4 for you. But if it hallucinates and gives you 2 + 2 = 4.5, you have to know enough programming to tell it, no, it's not 4.5, it's actually 4. So you have to know enough programming to say that. But yes, you and I don't know who Top G is, but Top G and Bill Gates have the same idea.
Thank you, Top G, for your. He or she says it's a wonderful session and amazing faculty. Yeah, that's true. So I think we covered all questions. I think people still have questions on placements. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Shiva, I just want to
Yeah, yeah.
end also maybe from my side. I want to end in this way that not just into private sector. After doing our program, not just into private sector you can go, but if someone gets interested or gets really inspired by the science or by the science for the physical sciences, adaptation, mitigation, if you are really inspired by it, you can also join our PhD program after finishing the MTech. Thanks.
Good. That's good, Angshuman. So I guess thank you all of you, Professor Angshuman, Professor Ravichandran, Professor Anjali, Professor Jaideep, Professor Vishal, Professor Akshaya here, Professor Suyash here, and our student Ratna. He's the one who managed everything. The YouTube session went seamlessly thanks to him. So yeah, thanks to all of
Thank
us.
you.
And please visit the Center for Climate Studies website for any more details. You can also mail to office.climate@iitb.ac.in. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. You can reach out. And I've been getting so many questions on this MTech program, and I'm very glad to answer all of them. You can reach out to us. You can reach out to the individual core faculty members on their email IDs. They'll actively respond to your queries. Yeah, and so I think we had a great session today. Thank you so much for joining. It was a good 3 hours. Yeah, thanks, Manoj. Got good idea about the course and research areas. That's good. Thank you so much, everyone who joined.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shiva.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks to Shiva.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Shiva.
Yes, indeed. Thanks to Shiva. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye. I'll end
Bye-bye.
the live.